this might be a tough decision right now.
My
but
team
I'm
did
not just
absolutely garbage.
NFL games that were like,
Right.
whoa.
I actually don't
Had
understand.
a lot of mixed feelings. Welcome, Disgruntled. We have another guest here on the Legal Domains.
Hey guys, I look absolutely disgusting right now, but I'm in Holden Beach. I believe that's the beach that I am currently at. It's in North Carolina. It's right below OBX. I originally thought I was going to Outer Banks, but there's some miscommunication. But I look absolutely disgusting. Sorry, I didn't take a shower today, and I was at the beach all day and editing some videos and hanging out with the family as well. I gotta keep my voice down because it's currently, it just turned 12, so it is Friday. August 12th is when I'm recording this. I have to keep my voice down because this house echoes a lot, and this video is probably going to be very echoey, and I'm sorry for that. But this is part 6 of my wildlife experience, and yes, I did really spend a month and a half of my life talking about wilderness, or my experience with wilderness, or at least just where I grew up in the woods, and the woods alone. I guess now that I'm expanding it, I should be specifically more wildlife, particularly just to the woods, and not just wildlife in general, because my experience in wildlife is much more grand than just this area. But I believe that we have covered a lot of ground, and I think we should only have, I know it's crazy to say it, but I think we should only have, including this one, 2 more episodes. This one, or I guess we're only going to have 1 more episode, because ain't no way I'm going to be talking about wildlife for that long. I mean, I guess I will, but I mean, you guys are tired of it. So last episode I spent 10 minutes just catching you guys up, 10-15 minutes just catching you up. So really that was half catch up, half not catch up, and I guess it is already 2 minutes into the podcast. So I guess I already wasted a lot of time, but there was no idea to be quiet because it just reached 12, and I don't want to wake up everyone in the house. I wrote my list because I got sidetracked last episode, and I didn't talk about anything that I sent myself except for 1 or 2 things. Crazy to say. I have in my list that I sent to myself. I guess let's jump into it. The things that I sent myself that I want to go over is bugs, skeletons, quote unquote, or the thing I want to focus on is turtle shell, antlers. I guess I already said bugs, massifiers, birds, and their nests, beehives, and catcall. So I'm going to do the catcall for this episode because I wanted to get to the catcall last episode, and if I didn't spend 10 minutes updating you guys last episode, I would have gotten to that, the catcall that happened in my neighborhood. I'll preface off that this was going to be a cute, creepy episode. Talking about episode 99, not this one, but I guess this is also going to be a creepy episode. And this is actually episode 101. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, but it's crazy to say 101 or to begin episode numbers that way. It's crazy that I did so many. Thank you again for everyone sticking around for that long. Catcall. Yeah, my neighborhood had a catcall, and no one's seen the people actually involved. No one knows what they look like, but we just know that there's a catcall because I live in this neighborhood, Lakewood Estates. It's a pretty safe neighborhood. It's kind of like, I guess, the Midwest of PA, if that's the best analogy that I can come up with. And where people leave their doors unlocked, it's safe, everyone knows each other. It's that kind of suburbia kind of feel to it. And so yeah, I mean, we always locked our doors just in case. I mean, I can only remember 1 crime. There's probably other crimes, but there's only been 1 crime that I can think of that actually happened in this neighborhood, and that was that a kid that I knew that I played soccer with and that went to my school actually ran around my neighborhood and stuff and was stealing stuff, and they stole stuff from my dad's car because my dad, I think, accidentally left his door unlocked into his car, and the kid stole like a manual, car's manual, and you'd be like, why did he steal a manual? But you can actually sell car manuals for pretty much, if you are ever in the market for stealing some manuals. I'm joking, don't steal anything. That was a joke, satirical, And I think he stole like the car charger and maybe like a pen or something, but my dad never keeps anything in his car. So, like, the kid, that's all he could really steal or was worth stealing from my dad's car. But that's kind of the vibe that my neighborhood had, or I guess that's the only crime that the police were ever involved in, because I'm pretty sure the police did catch him, because like that's only that I was heard of it, because I wasn't in contact with this person, and I didn't have any socials or his numbers, but it was just that I occasionally could talk to him while playing with it. But that was like, and I think I've only seen the police people, like, or a police car like once or twice in my neighborhood, and I don't know if they just had to say, hey, look, we swept this area. I never heard a siren, like a police siren. There I heard fire truck sirens, obviously, because that's like in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the woods. It's a lot more common to have the firefighters called rather than the police, but like I never heard any police sirens within the neighborhood. And like I've only seen like a couple of cop cars just patrolling around the neighborhood. And it's like also the type of neighborhood where it's like, if petty crimes do happen, unless like, I don't know, like petty crime being like letting the boa constrictor out loose, I guess that is pretty hefty crime, felony crime. But like, people aren't going to call the cops if something small like that's going to happen. The only reason why the cops got involved was because someone was stealing stuff. Back to the other story, but like petty crime like that, or like going over the speed limit. I mean, not that everyone was excessively going over the speed limit, but like just like petty crimes like that people did, and it's like in the middle of nowhere. I think it takes like 15-20 minutes for a cop just to show up because of how far away they are. 10-15 minutes, you know, it's not instant. It's not going to be a couple minute excursion. Yeah, so that's just kind of the vibe of my neighborhood. So no one, like, I'm sure this cat someone must have called the police on them, because that's like, what I'm about to explain is a little bit more hefty than a petty crime, or, you know, like going over the speed limit. But yeah, that's just, so what I'm trying to say is that nothing really happens in this neighborhood. This neighborhood's kind of stale, like a Midwest town, basically what it is, but in Pennsylvania. Yeah. So this cat call was weird. So what this cat call did, I mean, that's not officially what, they never established like a name. They never said that we are, like, this is the call. My mom and I kind of just said, oh, it's a funny thing to describe it as, and it's the best thing that we can describe it as, or it's the best thing that we came up with to describe these happenings. But during like maybe a couple months span, I believe, I don't remember worrying about it. I don't remember worrying about this too long or at all. It was just more interesting than not, but I don't remember it lasting that long. I think it was like, it lasted over the summer. I know summer's like 3 months, but within the summer it was like, I just remember, I don't remember the exact month, but I just remember it starting and ending within the span of summer. What this cat call did was they routed up cats, like house cats and stuff, because it was the type of neighborhood where, like I said last episode, I believe, like, or a couple episodes ago, it was the type of neighborhood where we didn't have to worry about letting our cats out and then them finding their way home, or like them getting like bitten by a rat or getting rabies. I mean, I guess we did have to worry about them, like for a raccoon attacking them or other house cats attacking each other, but they always came back before like night came for food and stuff. But it was like a type of neighborhood where like we could let our like cats loose and roam around and then come back. And so what this cat call was doing was getting those house cats and killing them and putting them on like people's porches. I think it happened like 2 or 3 times, which is not too much, but it's like, it's a pattern. 2, like the way that they were mutilated was weird. It was like, it wasn't like an animal that like drug it there and then put it on the porch. Like it was 2 different instances where like like a cat was found specifically on a porch. Like maybe if it happened once, possibly twice, that's a coincidence, but it was 2 or 3 times, maybe even more than 3 times, where it was a pattern and it happened in such a short amount of time that like it wasn't just like a coincidence, you know, like someone like killed a cat and put it on someone's porch. And then the same, my mom and I think it was, yeah, my mom and I think it was just my mom and sister went down to Trout Run. They went through the neighborhood's entrance, and remember the campfire that I was explaining to you? I think it was like one of the first episodes of this wildlife experience, but the area where the campfire is that I explained is when you come off the trail from the neighborhood, like it's this like universal campfire that I surprisingly, even though I'm a pyromaniac, pyromaniac is the word that I was trying to think of a few episodes ago, but you'll think that I would have a campfire there and camp in that area, but I never camped in that area or had a campfire in this campfire, but it was a universal campfire that everyone used for when they camped in this area, and it was like a pine forest, and like it was an open pine forest. There's probably 20 pine trees there, but it was open enough where you can camp, and there's not any brush there. So this campfire that was in this public main part of the trail on Trout Run was my mom and sister went there. I believe, or it may have just been my mom, but they walked down. My mom saw fur around this campfire, and it was cat hair, what she claims, and I believe her. And it was just like fluffy, because I remember some fluffy, like this happened like 5+ years after the fact, but on Daniel Kids with Explorer, he was the co-host or the co-member of Kids Exploring, a little series I did. Go back and watch that. But Daniel, co-member of that show, we found like fur and hair, and at the time we didn't have my hand the camera, so that backed up from what my mom said like years later, and it was weird that happened. That's part because at the time that I found it, years later, there was no cats that were being killed and put on people's porches. But yeah, so my mom and I just came up with the name Cat Called, or my mom did, because I was young at the time. And it was just creepy, because from the cat fur and cat hair, plus the 2 or 3, maybe 4 cats, 2 to 4, I'm going to expand it a little bit by 1, 2 to 4 cats that were killed on like these porches in the amount of time span that it was just very odd and weird. So I know that's not really wildlife, but it had to do in the realm of the woods and nature. I gotta stop saying just wildlife, because it's specifically just the woods. And that was a long story, but it needed to be told, and I'm happy that I got that one, because that was the longest story that I have yet, I believe. And then that's why I think I only need one more episode after this to finish this series off. 2 full months of me just talking about wildlife that I've experienced in the woods at my own old development. Maybe I'll even expand it to the city life, or city wildlife, or just wildlife general. Maybe I'll talk about the out west trip if you guys like it. But yeah, as of now, just talking about my neighborhood, it's almost concluded. So I got the cat cult. Now the beehives. The beehives is another big story, big enough that it would probably take us to the end of this podcast, or the end of 30 minutes. And maybe once I get back to the studio, I'll make an actual 1.5 hour long special where I just finish this series off, or maybe the last episode is just me finishing it rather than these short clips. So the beehives, my mom commented. I'm going to put all my mom's comments from what she had in the previous episodes. I should have been doing this as she was commenting, but I just was honestly too lazy for me to put up her screenshots of what she's been saying through the series. But maybe, yeah, in the final, sorry, I'm getting distracted because I'm trying to find, what was I trying to find? Or my mom's comments, so I can read it and have a better description of these beehives, or beehives instances. But I need to look back on my YouTube video, but due to YouTube Studios for some reason not allowing me to see the comments, whatever, or new old comments. But I got distracted by Hassan called Bell Porch in 4K that I want to just watch for later because it sounds funny. But I'm going to go to your channel. My channel is what it's saying. I think it was yes, it was this one. So I'm going to read you my comment. I'm going to read you my mom's comment and then post all of the comments that she commented on the episode 99 and part 5 of this series. So everything that she commented for at least that one video, I'm going to pop up now. And then I'm at the last episode, I'm going to have all of her comments because it has a better detail of the stories that I talked about for that specific part of the series or part of the episode of the series. And it has a more detailed and more in-depth look of each story that I told in each of the parts of this wildlife story or my wildlife experience. Your memory is very good. No, I think it was part 4 that I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's part 4 that, wait a second, I'm trying to find the specific comment that my mom did. Okay, yeah. Okay, so this is the first instance that it happened because this instance happened twice, and the first time that this happened I was with my mom, and this is why she's able to tell it. And wait, let me just pause this real quick. Okay, yeah, so the first time I do not remember because I was just 3 years old. I think I explained this briefly in maybe part 3 or part 2. Briefly, as in, I'm probably going to get to this story in this episode, but I talked about and ranted about specific story for too long type of deal where I just skimly did it. Like I was trying to do the cat called last episode or last wildlife experience episode, but it just didn't happen. But my mom reads, this is in part 4, episode 98 of League of the Wings, part 4 of the wildlife experience. But my mom says, I saved your life from a ground hornet's nest. We were walking, I went ahead of you and stepped right into the hornet's nest before you did. You were just a little guy about 3 years old. Mom's leg was stung all over. It hurt like crap. I had to carry you back home while my leg was swelling up and in so much pain. I hate wasps and hornets. So that's the first time that happened with ground hornets, and I didn't get to explain what ground hornets were in part 4 or as in depth as I would like. Hold on, guys. Gotta refresh this real quick. I'm exporting vlog 51 the boys as in Titus, Josh, and Brendan and I go to Michigan. That's the vlog. It's a 44-minute vlog, or I guess Titus was already in Michigan, but Josh, Brendan, and I took a boys trip to see Titus in Michigan. But in part 4, I didn't get to explain as in thoroughly and as in depth as I wanted to until the in-depth stories that I had about ground hornets, because there was a couple that I left out, and I guess there was one more that I didn't even know about because I didn't even know the story that happened with my mom even happened at all. So yeah, so ground hornets are basically just what verbatim for what it is, or what the literal name is. It's literally as that. I can't think of that word that I'm trying to think of, but it's ground hornets. It's as obvious as the name presents itself. So it's hornets or bees, bees on steroids in the ground, and they just build these little nests in the ground, and they dig and have their babies. And basically, you know how bees have these big, like, I guess regular hornets have those big, like, wasp nests, hornet nests or wasp nests, but those big cocoons up in the trees. That I saw a couple beehives like that, or hornet/wasp nests like that, and they're scary. Every time you walk under it, you always think that's gonna come crashing on your head. But it's crazy just how those works, because I think I've only seen maybe a dozen in my time, just like living in the woods and going to like other parts of the woods close to my house. But never on my, there was one on my property where it was like a bee's nest in the tree. And it was just big, and you kind of just have to let it go or call like an exterminator to come rid of it or get rid of it. And there's people that specialize in getting rid of bees nests. So like you can just call someone and they can get rid of it, or they'll just naturally find a new location come winter, because I believe that they do relocate. And it's just that I think bees are I think it goes ants are my favorite insects, and then bees right after that. I think it's a close tie at first, if that close tie, or tied for first favorite insect, or a close second with bees and ants. I don't know why. I just love the idea of having like that many or different organisms like build an basically infinite structure, and the only way that structure doesn't continue being built is if winter comes, or a human destroys it, or some force destroys it. But if something doesn't destroy it, then they'll just keep building and building. And I just like the idea of something just infinitely growing, because like how big will it get? Is there a limit to what the structure will be, or can they literally build entire worlds, like world's house? I know that was very off topic, but that's why I like bees and ants so much. But it's just crazy seeing them in wildlife, because it doesn't happen too often, or you don't see them too much. So it's just a crazy sight to see. And so I guess that's a part of wildlife, but it's basically that structure in the ground. And if you have to kind of keep an eye out, because you can see it ahead of time if you're paying attention and looking out for it, for ground hornets, because you can see like a few bees flying up, or a couple bees going into the ground or flying, because there's always going to be a few bees like around that area and going in and out, because they're constantly going in and out. But if you don't and step on one, you would get stung all over your legs, like my mom did from the story that I told you guys in the comments that she commented a little while ago. But yeah, if you don't see one, you're basically screwed. And that's basically what ground hornets are. And it's just, if you see it and you can like play around with it like I did, or like Danny on did in Kids Exploring, where you can like throw rocks at it and you can see them all come up. And they didn't happen too often. Ground hornets, I saw the beehives more than I did see the ground hornets when I was living in the woods. So ground hornets, I think we only ever had them like 2 or 3 times on the property, or my property. And I've experienced it more times off my property than on, but still less than the amount of times that I've seen a beehive in my development and in my yard and stuff. And I just saw myself and I looked terrible. I was just ranting there and ranting. I guess that is what a podcast is, just by yourself, is one long rant. Yeah, so the second time that this occasion happened was with my mom. I guess, yeah, it happened with my mom again, obviously. And my mom and I just finished hiking off the Trout Run, and I think I was like 6 or 7, maybe. I still have my red boots that I will talk about later too, maybe in this episode if I get a chance, but we are 24 minutes in without cuts. But so my mom and I, since I was little, I can't walk that far because I get tired, and then like I get more tired easily. So my mom and I just walked down the hill from the entrance from our neighborhood to Trout Run, and we walked through the tunnel underneath the railroad. If you remember me explaining that, I think in episode 1 or 2. And we went underneath the railroad, and I think I was swimming for a bit. No. I think I was creek stomping. That's another thing that I'll get to explain in the next episode. But I was creek stomping. But it was right before the entrance. I was creek stomping a little pool area right at the entrance to get out onto the main road, going into facing like the entrance, facing the opposite end of the main road that the public has access to. Excuse me. But that the public has access to. And for whatever reason, and then we wanted to get up onto the railroad. I'm sorry, this is taking me a bit to remember the specifics and what we were doing and why we were doing certain things, but or how we even got into this situation. But so my mom and I wanted to get on to the train tracks to walk there, and as we were walking up, we took, instead of taking the regular path that everyone took, that's clear and stepped on well, we took like an opposite end, and it was not a clear path. And my mom stepped on these beehives and I didn't, and I avoided it the second time. So it's very eerie that it happened twice in a short amount of time, where like I was young and my mom basically stepped in a beehive. I was able to avoid it, and then she gets stung all over, like gets stung over, you know. But in this instance, like my mom, she was like, oh crap, she was running and the bees were still on her and stuff, and it was because she stepped on a ground hornet's nest and I was able to avoid it, and then I was just running after my mom and trying to keep up because she was like trying to run away from the hornets and stuff. So she runs up the hill, gets on the railroad tracks, runs down the hill, because you can get onto the railroad tracks on both sides, from the public entrance to the trout run, and from the other side, the opposite side of it, where you're actually on the trail. You can access the railroad tracks on both ends. So my mom we ran all the way up and all the way down onto the main road, and she was still like swatting the bees away because for some reason they were just sticking on her and like sticking through her clothes and stuff. So we were able to run all the way to the main road, and my mom was like running on the side, and no one was there luckily to see this, because I think I would have been embarrassed if someone saw what was happening. But luckily my mom was not hurt at all. Not embarrassed, but like I don't know, like I didn't want anyone to be overly frightened of what was happening, because it was just bees, or overly alarmed, I guess, because it was just bees, and it's not like we saw a bear or anything, or like got bitten by a copperhead snake or something. But my mom eventually got every bee off, and she got stung a few times, but it wasn't as bad as the first one from when I was 3. Not that I remember, but just from the sounds of her explanation from when I was 3. But it was just wild that happened twice. And that's kind of my experience with hornet's nests. I don't know if I've ever stepped on one myself. Oh, I can finish this in 2 minutes. So before we started Kids Exploring, Daniel and I, before we started that, this is the event that inspired us to actually start filming, is because one, we were influenced by Roman Atwood to start vlogging. Big throwback. We were influenced by Roman Atwood, but we were majority influenced by this event because we were hiking. This was probably our 4th or 5th hike that we did together. So we were hiking, and we go up onto this rock structure that I explained on the 1st or 2nd episode, on Trout Run, and it was kind of sketchy how you get up, and it was a big rock structure where everyone camped and had fires and stuff and had shenanigans. Events happens, but we were making our way up onto that rock structure, the first rock structure, the smaller one and the shortest one, and we were walking up, and Daniel was third time I was saved by a ground hornet's nest, but Daniel, he stepped on it and he started sprinting, and I almost stepped on it because like we kind of both stepped in the same area at the same time, but he was closer, so they had started to attack him more, and we sprint down the hill, and luckily we were halfway up to the rock mountain, so we weren't at the steepest part of it, but we just sprinted, and we started to run away, and we were running through the creek, and I was soaked, and yeah, we just started sprinting away, and we didn't want to get hit, but that's what, stung, and that's what inspired Kids Exploring.